right, welcome to another episode of the Bulldog Bark. I'm yours truly, the Guru. With me, as always, got my partner in crime, BFC, Butler's Fighting Crew. And with us today, we got a very, very special guest in the building, your women's Butler basketball coach, Austin Parkinson. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
But no, appreciate you hopping on with us. Really excited to talk to you about the girls' team this year and what you guys have in store. So, kind of diving right into that. I was talking with the guys. Really, when you took over 3 years ago, I feel like momentum every year has just more and more positive momentum every single season. I mean, you took over a program that at the time was struggling a little bit. I think they came off like a 3-27 season. And ever since then, I feel like every year has gotten a little more exciting. So, what are kind of the vibes around the program as we head into 2025, 26? You've had a summer here to work with these girls. What can we kind of expect as we're heading into next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. Every year we've taken steps in the right direction from inheriting a 1-win program to 11 wins to 15 to 16. And I actually think last year we could have had a few more wins had we not had so many significant injuries. But I really like the group that we have right now. Probably the hardest working group of young ladies I've coached in my career. They really want to do right. They really want to learn. And it's been a lot of fun this summer getting to know this group of players and seeing them improve every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about it a little more later with, just the challenges of the portal and everything like that. But, you only return a couple players this year. Obviously a brand new squad. Now that you've had a chance to work with them this summer, any names or anyone popping out to you where you're like, oh yeah, that's going to be a valuable asset as we head into next season?
Well, I think the value that Lily Zeenstra brings to the table is going to be really big for our program. Last year as a freshman, she had a very nice progression throughout her freshman year. So, she started coming off the bench, played about 10 minutes a game, increased that to about 20 minutes, and then found her way into the starting lineup. And by the end of the year was almost playing 35 to 36 minutes a game. I joke that she might be the only freshman in the country that wants to play less next year because she was exhausted. But that experience and her leadership's been really good in the offseason. Lily Stoddard looks like a veteran and looks like a player that's been in our system for 3 years now. And then as some of the newcomers, I'm sure we'll touch on quite a few, but Mallory Miller, I think, presents some interesting talent and ability. As we continue to go, she can play inside, she can play outside. She's got a really good feel for the game, has a high basketball IQ. And then both of our freshmen have looked really good so far.
Yeah, I've actually had the pleasure of talking to all three of the ones you just mentioned there, Mallory and the freshmen. So definitely a good group. And I even said earlier, I was like, the Lilies are returning. So it's like it felt like there's a bunch of new players, and then obviously the Lilies. If you think, looking at this team, what would you maybe say are some of the, maybe worth some things that you guys think you can capitalize on heading into this season? What are some of your strengths? And then maybe what are some things that you've seen where you feel like, hey, we need to definitely improve in this area before we head into the season?
Well, we're definitely longer, more athletic, and faster up the floor. I mean, that's been obvious from day one. Our 2-point guards can really advance the ball, push the basketball. We've got wings that can really run. The Jackson twins to just absolutely fly up the floor. And then we've got really good versatility inside. We've got fours that can play five. We got fives that can play on the perimeter. And so that part of it's been exciting. Our defense has been really good. We're really flying around, getting deflections. I think the biggest challenge is getting this group experienced together. I wouldn't say they're an inexperienced group because, we've got kids that have been in college 3 years. Caroline Dotsey is a veteran. Mallory this is going into her third year. Kennedy Langham was a really important player for Samford. So we have experience, but they've not gone through winning and losing situations together. They've not faced a lot of adversity together, but they're doing all the things that you need to prepare yourself for those moments, and that part's been fun to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I'll just ask one more thing before I pass over to BFC for some questions. But Obviously, I think the goal is always to. I mean, the goal is always to win the championship. Obviously, we that's that's why you play, right? But maybe what are some goals heading into the season? Like I said, you guys have been building some momentum the past few years. Any whether it's Big East title or anything like that. Is there any specific goals or just short term goals that you have for the team and for yourself heading into the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's an entirely new group. I think again, my thing is we want to keep moving the program forward and taking the next step. And we've been to postseason play the last couple years. In the WNIT, what's the next step? WBIT, NCAA tournament. We want to position ourselves to have an opportunity to do that. Now, that said, we don't spend a lot of time talking about those things. We kind of very process focused, trying to get better each day. What's unique about having such a new group and so many new players? The negative is there's a lot of things that you've got to cover, and so you really have to kind of simplify. The positive is a lot of them are all learning at the same pace, and so you can kind of slow down and really they kind of give you a guide of where we need to go and what we need to do. And the thing that I've been really impressed with is how hard these kids work when practice ends. Almost the entire team wants to stay around and get shots up or work with the coaches. And so it's a very hungry group. And I think that will help us as the year goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. BFC, what you got, man?
Yeah, I think kind of the first thing before going into your coaching, totally. I want to just ask kind of about your playing career. Obviously, playing at Purdue at a high level, and also playing point guard, which has produced some of the best coaches across the game, across all levels. What do you think it is about having that mindset as a point guard that has helped you kind of make that transition into coaching?
Yeah, I think the point guard mindset actually comes a lot from my father. He was a point guard. He's the former all-time assist leader at Purdue history. Braden Smith passed him, but him and I's discussions over the years, from my days when I was in sixth grade all the way through college, and even now, just the way point guards think and beyond just, X's and O's and how can you get this guy the ball in the right spot? That's always been really helpful. I think my playing career and playing for Coach Katie and being part of that really helped me. I think you look back at Coach Katie's coaching tree, there's a lot of successful coaches, Coach Painter, Coach Martin, Coach Luss, Coach Lavin, Coach Weber. All of them, including myself, have all done things different offensively, but the main thing is we've always tried to recruit high character kids and run a strong, high character organization, but they also guard and defend. And that's been kind of the consistency. And so I think that starts with Coach Katie and a lot of the lessons I learned, playing for him.
Yeah, and kind of touching on recruiting, which you just kind of touched on there. Obviously, even just since you've been at Butler, the landscape of college athletics and the landscape of women's basketball specifically has really changed. What about NIL, the transfer portal, and then the addition of kind of these massive stars entering the women's game in college and now into the pros has kind of changed your mindset going into recruiting and what challenges have kind of come up with it?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, from the day I took the job in the office up there with Coach Collier, rules changed. I mean, almost immediately. With the transfer portal, and then NIL and NIL, we really hadn't done a whole lot until now. The new rev share model that's gone into place, and Butler's really supported that. But I think there's been challenges, because there's a lot of turnover. You saw that last year. Not just with our program, but if you looked at every program in the state, there were a large number of players leaving for differing reasons. I was listening to a podcast recently, and Ronald Norad was on there, and I thought he said it better than how I could say it. But when you're trying to evaluate players and talent, there's certain things that each program is going to have, but you got to find kids that want to be at Butler and understand what a special place Butler is. And this off season, this was a different off season. When I first got the job, you inherit a one-win program. You're really trying to get people to come to the program and just hey, say yes. What's interesting is three of the young ladies that are now on our program this year, when I was recruiting them and telling them, "Hey, I'm telling you, that we're going in the right direction. You know, Butler's a special place. You know, this, that, and the other." At the time, they're kind of looking at you like, "Yeah, we'll see. I don't know about that." Well, now they've been able to see, that growth and see what we were talking about. And so as a staff, we just feel like, going forward, there's a certain, talent and character level that we want, but we've got to get kids that really want to be at Butler. Addie Baxter is a great example of that. Addie committed to us after her junior year of high school, and Addie could have been recruited by a number of great schools and was, but I mean, could have continued on, but she's a kid that understood what Butler's about, what this university's about, how tight knit this place is, and those are the players that we really need to get and try to be able to continue to keep here at Butler.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, kind of going back to coaching and how you obviously came up going through Indiana high school basketball and into Purdue under Coach Katie. How would you describe your coaching style and who have you kind of taken tools from along the way?
Yeah, we just want to be authentic. The reality is that we want to get kids that are tough, hard nosed, high basketball IQ, and are going to be for the team. I say all the time, like, I don't really care what these kids are ranked. I don't pay any attention to that stuff. Do they fit what we do? Do they have the right character? And then the big thing is, do they love basketball and really love basketball? I mean, I think that's the one thing that's when you're talking to kids, they all say they love it. Everybody has a trainer nowadays. But the reality is, do you love it when you're going through a shooting slump? Do you love it when you got back from a road trip and you got weights in the morning and class at 9 a.m. and you've not shot very well, so I need to stay around and get extra shots up. Those are the kids that you're trying to find, because the reality is, if you can find those kids that love it, they're gonna have a chance to reach their potential. And we feel like those are the players that we've tried to identify, and this group, I think, really exemplifies that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then one more question about your kind of coaching come up. I always like to refer to it as Ooey Pooey, IUPUI. Unfortunately, now it's IU Indy. We know that. But, you started there. You were there for a good probably 8, 9. How many years was that? 8?
12.
12, 12. Oh my gosh, 12, even more than that. Okay. So, you've had experience with turning programs around. You did a great job there. What was kind of the process like when you did decide to kind of come to Butler? What was that conversation like? What was that process like? Again, taking over a program that was just frankly not in a good spot. I feel like that had to take some convincing on just Butler's. You talked about convincing girls to come to Butler. What was kind of the convincing factor for you to come to Butler to kind of rebuild the program?
Well, I'm grateful for the opportunities I got at IUPUI and what we created there. We had the uh, most difficult facility situation, probably the lowest budget at the time. They've now improved a lot of those things over there, but we were able to go to 7 NITs and 2 NCAA tournaments, and we had maintained a level of consistency that was, I thought, really difficult for me personally. When this Butler job came open, I didn't have to think twice about it, to be honest with you. I've always loved Butler, always respected Coach Collier, and everything that Butler's about, and so for me it was a really easy decision. The challenging part, I think, was looking at where that program was at one win, and then all these different rules that have kind of changed. I wouldn't say a lot of these rules changed in an advantageous way to speed up that process. And so you're trying to go into a new situation and then adapt to these new rules. That said, I'm really proud about what we've done. If you think about it, I mentioned the wins, but we've increased our attendance every year. We went from, I think they were drawing like 700 a game. Last year we were up to 1,800 a game. We've really rebuilt the relationships with the alumni. That's probably something I've enjoyed as much as anything, is getting to know the former players, seeing them come to games, seeing former players now when we're in road trips, come to games. And so that's the part that I enjoy. And, Butler's just so special. I tell people all the time, I spoke to the freshman class that's incoming freshman this year at the university, and I said, you have a responsibility and a legacy to carry on that tradition because I've never worked anywhere where a campus and community as supportive and tight knit as this place, and that's what I think makes this place special.
Is again, I've had the pleasure of talking to a couple of your players. One of the quotes that came up actually with both Addison and with Mallory was about the small things or the small details. They mentioned that I kind of said what's it like playing for Coach Park, and they both said that. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Like what exactly are you emphasizing when you're kind of talking about that?
Well, I think it starts with the recruiting process of talking about, listen, we want to be authentic. I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, I'm going to tell you, when you're doing well, I'm going to tell you, the things that you need to improve and grow. And these kids want that. One of the Butler way components is seeks truth. We talk about that, seeking truth. We want information. We want to be learn where we can grow, and you can't be afraid of those things. We are very detail oriented, but we also try to do that in a way where we're teaching it from a visual standpoint with video. Sometimes it's on the court, sometimes it's bringing them into our office, and then getting their feedback as well. Learning how certain kids pick up certain concepts, and so it's been neat to see that. Mallory Miller's one that's a very high basketball IQ. Caroline Dotsey's a kid that's played at a high level and understands the game really well. So you're trying to, as much as you're teaching, you're also trying to ask questions and kind of get feedback on because every kid learns differently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then actually that leads into my another question at BFC. I'll hand it back to you. But and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what's it like as a coach trying to bring together a group when there is the transfer portal, there is the freshman, do you do anything specific with your group of girls, whether that's events or anything like that, where you try and bring that unity together, or is it something more organic that happens? Everyone I've talked to just talks about how tight knit this group is. Again, had the pleasure of talking to some of your girls, and it sounds like as a team they're already kind of one, which is awesome heading into the season. Is there anything you do on your end to kind of help ensure in today's climate that happens?
Well, we always try to do things, to bring the team together. We have them over to our house, 5 to 6 times a year. We're always, we went to a Fever game, we go to Top Golf, we've gone to Escape the Room, we do a game show. Last year they made candles together and created their own scents. We do a lot of those things. That stuff's important, and we try to do that as coaches. That said, when they're led by the players, it makes such a more deeper impact. We had a coaches meeting this summer, and we were kind of doing some checks and balances and just asking questions. And I asked Coach Hoopengartner, "Hey, what's the next activity we got to plan?" And her comment was, Coach, they hang out all the time. Like it's not really something that's needed. And so that part is really important. The other part I've noticed too is our kids have been very supportive of the other sports. And that goes back to buying into Butler and embracing Butler. We've got kids that are really trying to embrace that and understand the importance of Butler. And I like that.
Yeah, no, and again, I look forward to talking to more of your players, and it seems like you have a great group. Like I said, it sounds like they're very close and tight knit already, which is awesome, especially in today's environment with all the movement, right? So, BFC, what you got, man?
Yeah, I think just two kind of quick questions here. The first one, something that we've asked a couple coaches. If you're building kind of your ideal player from the women's game, so shooting, passing, defense, and leadership, who are you picking for those spots?
You're talking, I can go three different players here. Is that what you're
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
So what were they again?
Shooting, passing, defense, and the leadership.
Leadership, I'd have to say the piece of Collier. When I watch the Minnesota Lynx play, I think she's their most dynamic player, but she's always guarding the best player, and you can really tell she leads that team. I think passing, Caitlin Clark. I mean, the way that she's able to throw the ball up the floor vertically, the way she plays in pick and roll, the reads that she makes. Um, and then, as far as shooting goes, gosh, I think there's a lot of players that can, really shoot the basketball. Right now, Sabrina Ionescu seems to be, whenever she's open, she's cash. So, she'd probably be the other shooter for me.
Yeah, Nafisa Collier brings up flashbacks. I'm a St. Louis guy, and she beat us in the state semifinal. I think 3 out of the 4 years I was there. I mean, she was money, and has been since, obviously.
Well, I'll say this, taking it back to college, Maddie Segrist might be the best player I've ever witnessed in person. We played him at their place, and I thought we did like a decent job on her. She still got like 25. Coming back to our place, I'm like, okay, hey, we've got a game plan here that like it's gonna be hard to beat them, but like we can really make a difference. I think she had like 13 in the first quarter and was hitting like sideways shots. She even had one where she traveled. They called it and she still made it. Like it was unbelievable. And I'd never seen a player catch high, keep high from the elbows the way she did. And, she's an impressive player. I hope maybe she gets traded to the Fever at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a special type of scorer to be on a team that's not, riddled with a ton of talent. Know where the ball is going and it's still going in. Uh, Obviously, we've had some people go through Butler like that. And then the last question, and it's come up a lot in Butler circles. Where are you getting your Butler gear? Because you have sicker gear than any other coach we have.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so I appreciate that. My staff's going to laugh when they hear this. So I can't just buy things anymore and hope they fit. Like I've got to try it on. Every Nike, everything's made smaller, and so a lot of times I'll get it in the stores and then go logo it. So like the one I'm wearing right now is a PGA store, and then I go get it logoed. But I do appreciate it. I've probably the best thing from COVID was the fact that we don't have to dress up on the sidelines, which I hate anyways. Now I can wear a hoodie or my Jordans and feel much more comfortable. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, no, there was definitely an infinite number of pictures to pick from when I was kind of posting about it. I was like, man, the dude looks swaggy in all of them. It's amazing. but yeah.
Sure to tell my wife that she'll
Yeah, absolutely. And then just some kind of like and we do this with every podcast, just some like get to know you stuff because I feel like everyone knows you as the coach, knows you for the basketball, but kind of just getting to know you behind the scenes. I know you're an Indiana guy. You've obviously been now down in Butler, the Indianapolis area for a while. If you had to pick your go-to restaurant in the Indy area, where are you going?
Oh, that's easy. Mama Carola's.
That's a good spot. Can't go wrong. Some
Yeah,
nice Italian food.
easy spot, easy pick.
Yeah, easy. What about now? I know the players a lot of times will listen to some music to kind of get them amped up before a game. Do you have any go-to music to kind of get you in that coaching mindset, or just anything that you like to casually listen to actually rewind after like a game or anything like that?
Well, the only music we listen to in the car right now is Forrest Frank because my daughter's 8, and that is on the playlist all the time, every day, all day on our way to school. I'm not a bit. I don't really listen to music a lot before games. If I'm trying to distract myself, I might play on my Nintendo Switch or try to read a book. But not a big music guy. Before or after games, I guess. Whatever my daughter's listening to is probably what we're listening to.
Yeah, I've become with a 4.5-month-old. I've become pretty good at singing those little tunes. They actually kind of catchy, some of them, which I never thought I'd say. But and by the way, Mallory Miller, she'll tell you that if you ever need something, apparently give her the aux cord because she apparently will hook you up. She claims DJ. What she call herself? DJ Malfunction. That was it. Yes. What about if you had to kind of again like rewinding for the night? Do you have a TV show or a movie that's a favorite or a go to for you?
I mean, I'm a big TV guy. I'm trying to think. What shows I've watched. Peaky Blinders was
Great
a
show.
favorite of mine. I love Ted Lasso. There was a show on Apple TV, Silo, for a while. So yeah, I love sci-fi, murder mystery, Reacher for a little bit. Right now, I'm watching the Terminal List Dark Wolf, which is a prequel to the Terminal List. So I
Okay.
enjoy those movies. Or shows.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. And then, actually, BFC. Before we forget, I'll let you ask your favorite question.
Yeah, so I'll bring back and it'll be two-part question because I know that you have your your J's that you wear while coaching. Your favorite pair of basketball shoes when you were playing and your favorite pair to coach in.
Favorite playing is the Penny Hardaways. When I would wear those. Now my favorite look was black shoes, black socks. I loved black shoes. 95 Bulls. I tried to make my teams at IUPUI. We had limited options, and so nowadays every kid wears different shoes. I black shoes, black socks. I thought it looked great. I still think it looks great, but I know I'm not the guy with that's the hip anymore, so I don't make the ladies do it if that's something they want to do. As far as what I coach in, I mean, the one thing is I don't really know the names, of each Jordan. Probably one of the Jordan lows that I have. It looks good, fine, but comfort probably is as much as important to me.
And then is there a hobby that, again, we know he's the basketball coach. Is there a hobby that you do that maybe someone would not expect that Coach Parkinson likes to do?
Um, I mean, I like to play pickleball with the men's staff quite a bit. Um, I like to golf a lot, but I've got a bad shoulder right now, so that's limited my options there. But honestly, I really try to be at home with my family as much as possible. I'm 44 years old. I've got an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 16-month-old, and the 16-month-old's a handful. And so, I like to be present because during the year we're gone a lot, and my wife's amazing. She does an incredible job. She runs her own business and mothers, and so like I like to be with them as much as possible when I have spare time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, kind of going back to the court, is there any team or coach that you most look forward to playing um, throughout this? It doesn't have to be just, I mean, mostly Big East. I mean, obviously the IU game last year was awesome, but is there a team or a coach that you kind of get a little extra juice for before you play them?
I don't know if it's extra juice. Tony Bozzella is my good friend at Seton Hall, so I always enjoy seeing him. His teams are really difficult to play against, so that's why that part's not enjoyable. I enjoy playing UConn just because I have so much respect for Gino, and he's been incredibly kind to me. But the one thing I found in the Big East, and I really say this, uh, I really like all the coaches. There's not a there's the Horizon League. There were a couple teams that was like, all right, let's go time, and maybe a little feistiness or chip on your shoulder. I don't really feel that way. And what I would say is, I really believe there's some of the best coaching in the country in the Big East. And I don't know if it gets enough attention, but our coaches all get along well. We love to compete. There's no doubt about it. But it's a great league, and a lot of really talented coaches in the Big East.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just because I brought up the IU, kind of real quick, just kind of talk to us about that last year because that was probably one of the coolest, honestly, in Butler athletics last year was one of the coolest moments. What was that like for you and for your team to finally kind of I'd say get over the hump and beat Indiana, which is a very significant outcome, just considering the history of that matchup.
Well, it was a big deal. The year before, we'd won at Wisconsin, um, which was kind of a bottom tier Big Ten team at the time. But still, to go on the road and do that. Now you've got Indiana, a top 25 team coming in. We'd already lost one of our top players to an ACL in the preseason. So for our team to be able to do that at that point was really exciting, especially because I have so much respect for Coach Moore and the program she runs in Indiana. They're always disciplined. They're always well coached. They're never going to overlook somebody. So that was a big win for us. The unfortunate part was when Caroline went down with her ACL. We weren't able to continue that momentum into conference play, and I'm hoping this year we have a little bit better luck on the injury side, so that we can maintain some of that success throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. BFC, you got anything else, man?
Yeah, just one last question. It's a question I like to ask that We've had a version of it with the McCaffreys and with a couple of the coaches on the men's side. But I'm going to frame it as 1v1 between you, Alex Barlow, and former Butler women's assistant coach Damon Bailey. Who's taking it?
I mean, are we going to say that I'm healthy because I've got bad shoulders?
All you guys at your peak.
Oh, well, you know what? I don't want to say this. I'm absolutely smoking Barlow. That's not even close. Now I got a lot of respect. Damon Bailey's probably going to get me. I don't, he's a little probably stronger than I was and knew how to get his shot. So I'm going to give him respect there. But Barlow's getting smoked. And Barlow's my pickleball partner too, so he'll be glad to hear this.
What are the pickleball teams?
Me and Barlow, and we play Mojo and Jack, and then Connor plays sometimes, and we play 1v1 every once in a while. But it's good. It's just good to get out there and get competitive. And for me anymore, I trying to find something that you can play and get those competitive juices is a lot of fun.
So yeah, Coach, just a few fan questions as well that came through. This first one, I'm just going to read the whole thing because it's a big old spiel. It says, with his pops being Bruce Parkinson, who was the all-time assist leader, sorry, Bruce, at Purdue until last year, in Indiana High School Hall of Famer, maybe some questions about that relationship. What do you hope your players learn from you that maybe connects back to what you learned from your pops? And then the second part of that question is earliest memories of being around the game because of your dad.
Well, I'll start with the second one first. I mean, I remember going with him to City League and him playing and me getting to shoot in between quarters. I mean, he took me everywhere with him. The other thing is I wore number 11 in college because of Isaiah Thomas. Now, we lived in Detroit in '84 when they were bad boys, and he was friends with Kent Benson. And so we would get to go in the locker room. And so I was a Isaiah Thomas fan back in the day, and carried that with me, as I went on in my career. Um, the one neat thing I think my players get to see is my dad comes to practice, almost once a week. He's around the program a lot. But, the thing for me that I think he was great about that I hope our players and parents, he never talked to me about my playing time. He never talked to me about how many points I scored. He wanted to know if I had the right effort and attitude. And then we always talked about big picture things. I always go back to this example on our sixth grade team. Our center at the time, he said if you could get him a bucket in the first minute of the game, he'd go out and get 10 points and 10 rebounds. He goes, but if he didn't get a bucket in the first minute, he wouldn't play very well. And he goes, that's such a psychological thing that always stuck with me. But those are the things that we would talk about and communicate with. And now the one thing I've tried not to do is he's also the all-time turnover leader. And so we try not to not do that. I don't send the kids for advice that direction. So
Yeah,
he'll
that,
he'll be real pumped when he hears that.
that's hilarious. But yeah, so that's actually I had no idea that he was also the turnover. So I guess now that he's no longer the assist leader, he is just the turnover leader.
I teased him. I went to watch the night that Braden was going to break it. Braden's dad, Dustin, and I were high school teammates. And I said, now that you're not the all-time turnover or not now that you're not the all-time assist leader, I'm not parking next to Mackey. I'm spending $25 parking at Sigma Nu. So he laughs.
That's hilarious.
He's a good sport about it. Listen, they played a lot faster than they do nowadays. So he had the ball in his hands a lot. I'll defend him a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously it's pretty well known that Caitlin Clark's been around the program a lot more lately, with obviously the relationship with Coach McCaffrey. How has that impacted the program? Have you noticed any? Is that a selling point for you guys? I know it sounds silly to say, but you always see kind of like the guys, bringing them to fever games and stuff like that. What's that relationship been like having Caitlin around the women's and the men's program?
Well, she's incredibly classy. We try to always be really respectful. I want Butler to be a place for, her to not come and feel like, she's got to be doing 55 different things. She was polite enough to take a picture with my daughter at one point while we were in practice. I didn't even know it happened. But what I would say is, I mean, there's all, Gatorade commercials being filmed, Stanley commercials, Dude Perfect. she's brought so much positive, positive things from that standpoint. What I would also say, what she's done for the Fever, the fan base that is sold out every game and families. I remember, I was pumping gas one day and a 60-year-old grown man in a Caitlin Clark jersey. That tells you she's elevated the eyes on women's basketball. But what I also think is, those Caitlin Clark fans and those Fever fans now have someplace they want to go during the winter.
Mhm.
And we're hoping that we can get some of those fans to come over and watch Butler women's basketball and enjoy the experience at our games and enjoy our product as well. But she's been great for the city of Indianapolis. And, I love that she's with the Fever and we enjoy following her.
Yeah, and I've actually had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the CC fans that are now also Butler fans. It is even cool. I mean, I know personally several CC fans that are contributing to the NIL at Butler now, which is like, it's just impact like that. So definitely have enjoyed having around the program. Really cool to hear. This one's, what are the qualities in a player that you look for when at AAU circuits or tournaments? I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll let you answer it again. Scouting or yeah, basically, it's what qualities do you look for in a player when you're heading to these tournaments and these circuits, kind of recruiting players?
Simple, talented players with good character that love basketball. Talented players part, like I said, I really don't care what anybody's ranked. I don't pay any attention to those services when it comes to that. Do you fit what we do? Your character, how you going to represent yourself, how you going to represent Butler, and then do you love basketball? Truly love basketball. And I think I would add, I want competitive people. I want competitors. I mean, I think we live in a generation right now when society where everything is 30 seconds microwave. We want it quick, and I still believe there are players and families out there that appreciate hard work, appreciate growth, development. That's important to us, and so we think Butler's a special place, and we want people that want to be at Butler, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So another question that we got was, do you recruit usually largely in state?
Well, we try to typically focus here on the Midwest and then branch out from there. Um, when in the portal, a lot of the kids we had prior relationships with, there were only a couple that we really didn't know that well. And Caroline Dotsey was watched by Nevin Markovic, who was my former assistant, former player, and was really high on her. And when we were recruiting her, a couple of things I noticed: her two best games were against Purdue and Indiana. She had 14 in one game, 17 against the other. She played 18 minutes a game, was sixth woman of the year, but kind of a money ball situation. Like, you looked at the productivity and the time that she played, and then when she visited campus, I felt like I was talking to like a 28-year-old, woman that had been through, life and that maturity. And so, we will expand out. She's from Philadelphia. Kennedy Langham from Samford was freshman of the year in the SoCon. Came into her sophomore year, was about to have a really big year, and she hurt her foot in the summer. Didn't get a practice until they started playing games. Still had a nice year, but we were able to get her, and she's just been awesome. I mean, even keel, tough as nails on the guarding the basketball, really good in the paint. So, yes, we want to stay here in the Midwest because there's so much good basketball, but we'll look for the right people and the right opportunities, in other spots.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, I got two more. One was Jalen Jackson committed to the men's team. Did that have any impact on getting his sisters to come to Butler for the women's team?
Yeah, I think first of all, Jalen's a great guy.
Mm,
When they were on their visit, he came to Top Golf with us. Their mom Katie's done an unbelievable job with those kids. They're just a great family.
mm,
I'm sure there were some positives. They're a very close group, but the twins are high energy, great. I mean, people just want to be around them, and they've done an awesome job. I have thoroughly enjoyed coaching them, being around them, And, glad Jalen's here. I think he's going to do great things for the men's team, but we're thrilled that they're here and that they chose to come to Butler.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then the kind of last one's just about Grant Linedecker. More or less is just asking about what's that relationship been like working with Grant, and then kind of can you just elaborate on what he's meant and what he's done with this with the athletic programs since he's kind of taken over as athletic director.
Yeah, it's been a great transition. I mean, when you have to follow a legend like Barry Collier, who I'm so grateful hired me, but I'm also grateful that we hired somebody in Grant that understands Butler and what Butler's about, and he's been awesome. There's been so many neat changes. I mean, if you come into Hinkle Fieldhouse now, the game day experience, TVs in the hallways. There's so many different things that are taking place. We had a coaches meeting at the beginning of this year, and he brought in a outside group that focuses on leadership and spoke to us coaches, and it was one of the best talks I'd really ever heard. And so he's got a lot of energy. He's doing a great job raising money, and he's in a challenging position. I mean, he takes over as athletic director in an era where everything got turned on upside down and on its head. And he represents Butler great. I'm fortunate that I get to work for him, and he works his tail off trying to enhance Butler and everything that's going on with our athletics programs.
Yeah, no, definitely. And another one I'd like to add to that is the TBT tournament. I think is always, it's been a blast having that in Hinkle and, getting like the NIT games in Hinkle. That Indiana State versus Seton Hall game was absolutely, insane. Just having Hinkle on the front and center for a lot of these events is really cool. And I think Grant's obviously been a huge positive impact. But no, that's pretty much everything that all the fan questions that we had. Really appreciate you hopping on with us, Coach. It's always fun hearing about the dogs and obviously getting more about the women's program. Just super excited for you guys this season, and obviously congrats on everything you've accomplished so far with the Bulldogs. And I know I speak on behalf of Butler Nation when I say we're all super excited for the direction you're taking this program. So appreciate you sitting down with us, and best of luck this season. Looking forward to watch some Bulldog basketball in Hinkle this year.
Well, I appreciate you guys covering us like this. It's helpful to grow our program. And like I said, I love Butler. We're excited about this group of players, and we hope the fans will continue to come out and support and see what a kind of a special group we have.
Yep, I always like to end these with a nice little "Go Dogs."
Go Dogs.